3, 2, 1.
You ready?
You're listening to the Real Pineapple Podcast Network. Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, theys, and gays. This is the Real Pineapple. This is your humble host, Hunter, here. Hope you're all having a great night, weekend, day, whenever you're checking this out. I've got a review for the latest DC offering. Here we go. Grab your pitchforks and your torches. Got a review for Black Adam, which is directed by Jean Collet-Serra, who, of course, you know from directing a shocking amount of Liam Neeson movies, including Nonstop, which kicks ass, Unknown, which is tight, Run All Night, which I actually do enjoy, The Commuter, which is actually pretty good. I like The Commuter. But he recently did Jungle Cruise with Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt last year, which that review's on the channel now. Spoiler, I actually really liked Jungle Cruise quite a bit. I was actually surprised at how much I like Jungle Cruise. But this brings us to Black Adam, which of course stars Dwayne Johnson. You know Dwayne Johnson, of course, from Mixed Race to Witch Mountain. You know him from Fast 5, Faster, which I think is a very underrated movie. The aforementioned Jungle Cruise, Hobbs and Shaw, Ballers. Dwayne Johnson's one of the biggest, if not the biggest, film stars in the world. And if you've listened to the podcast for a decent amount of time, I've been calling him the Simone Will Smith. And the reason I've been calling him the Simone Will Smith is because I do think we need to have a conversation about who Dwayne Johnson is. And when I say that, I mean as far as his box office drawing power. Because when you look at things like Skyscraper, when you look at things like San Andreas, when you look at DC League of Super Pets, even, or Red Notice, or I could keep going. I mentioned Skyscraper, but he's been consistent at points, but he really isn't the megastar box office wise that I think a lot of people think he is. Baywatch didn't do well. Central Intelligence didn't really do well. He's more misses recently than I think people really think about. Those Jumanji movies really helped. And the fact that those are more family, skewed towards families, I know has definitely helped his, cachet and definitely helped his box office. But even Hobbs and Shaw, for what I think a lot of people would expect from the Fast and Furious franchise, that even underperformed as well. But this has been something that has been 15 years in the making. Dwayne Johnson has been adamant about bringing Black Adam to the big screen. He has said that, the hierarchy of the DCEU is about to change, which I will get into that in a second. So how does this movie break down? Oh yeah, let's get into it. So Dwayne Johnson, of course, stars as the titular character in Black Adam. One thing I will say right off the bat that I actually do like about the film is I like the way they go ahead and set up, like, okay, how do I want to put this? This movie's just over 2 hours. It's 2 hours, 4 minutes. There's a lot crammed in here, and that's something that I do think is to the detriment of the film because they zoom through so much. The first 10 minutes, I'd say, is pure exposition, and it's just an exposition dump, including voiceover, which I just went, oh god, okay. It's a very lazy way to do this shit, but that's how they choose to do it, so whatever. But it's not even like Korg, where it's like kind of fun, but I digress. We start off in Kahndaq, I think is how you say it, but we get a cool connection to the Council of Wizards, so you get that Shazam connection. But Black Adam's people have been enslaved. It's very Scorpion King-ish at that point as well. But what I do appreciate about how they depict it is that you really do feel like these people are suffering. They are mining for this resource that is going to go ahead and bring eternal power to the kingdom. The king at the time goes ahead and basically just starts killing people off because they're not working hard enough. And that's what leads to the champion aspect of Black Adam. Black Adam's about the person who becomes Black Adam's about to get killed. Council Wizards give him the power. He comes back and fucks shit up. And I will say that sequence in particular is actually really well handled. There is some stuff with the action that I do enjoy this quite a bit. It's hit and miss, admittedly, at points, and I'll get into that in a moment. But there is some of the action beats that did actually work. But they really do zoom through the origin pretty quick. So they mentioned this crown. And the crown in particular, the crown of Sabak. So they kind of have this throwaway line about it, which does end up... Okay, by the way, spoilers for this, because I do need to actually spoil to kind of get into mild spoilers, I'll say. Because there are some things I do need to get into to discuss how I feel about the film. But the crown of Sabak, they go ahead and they have this kind of throwaway line of saying, oh, if if someone wears this can summon demons from the ancient world. And I went, all right, that's interesting. And they don't really bring it up again until the last third of the movie, which I will get to. But Black Adam gets imprisoned for 5,000 years. He wakes up in present day, which is where we go ahead and we get the introduction of not just the JSA, but of some other characters, including Adriana Tumas, who was played by Sarah Sahi. She looked really familiar, and I was racking my brain. I remember her from Bullet to the Head, which is kind of random. And there's a show, Fairly Legal. I don't know if anyone remembers that from USA. That was a really good show. She's currently on Sex Life right now, but she's actually a pretty good actress. Oh, she's on Chicago Fire. Okay, there you go. She was on there too. But I wish they had given her better dialogue, because I think she does a good job of elevating what is some very just lame dialogue at points. She is, the feisty mom who has a kid, and what's frustrating about her is that she's making some good points, but the fact that all of this is kind of her fault, actually not even kind of her fault, it is her fault. She's the one who goes ahead and is looking for the crown with her brothers, and she goes ahead and basically awakens Black Adam. And so all this destruction and everything throughout the city, yeah, Black Adam's obviously doing it, but this motherfucker was enslaved for a reason. And she wakes him up because she's looking for something that she shouldn't be. And she talks about how the crown is incredibly dangerous and how it needs to be out of the wrong hands. But there's really no plan on what to do with the crown. She just kind of goes, well, we have to get it out of the town. And I went, all right, so where are you going to put it afterwards? If anything, you should fortify the place it's at now, put some cement and shit over it or something instead of just unearthing it and then moving it somewhere else. It's a very flawed plan, honestly, and the movie just kind of goes, shut up, don't think about it. And I'll just get this out of the way now. There is someone who's introduced very early on. You kind of get this vibe about, yeah, this person's probably bad. The twists they pull with this person, you can see coming from a mile away. And the way it factors into the third act, as far as the quote villain unquote of the film, was something I'm not gonna lie, y'all. I rolled my eyes and I was just laughing. I was like, give me a fucking break. Really? This is where you're going with the big CGI final battle fest? Dumb. Furthermore, I know this is a DC movie. I know they can't quit Zack Snyder, even though he's not coming back. I get it. But Mike, can we just stop with the insane amount of slow-mo? There's so much slow-mo in this movie. There's probably at minimum 10 instances where they use slow-mo. And I just went, okay, we don't need to use slow-mo for every fucking thing. Like, we really don't. But I was talking about Black Adam's powers and kind of his intro. You see it teased in the trailer when he wakes up and he is using his lightning to go ahead and like break through the tomb and everything. That's a really cool sequence. I'm not crazy about how his super speed is filmed. It just looks a little clunky to me. But as far as his electricity, that's badass. There's a point where he Mortal Kombats this guy. It's basically a fucking fatality where he just melts this guy's skull. You see it break off in Black Adam's hands. I went, God damn. And he reaches through a rock and melts another guy. So there's some badass sequences in this movie. I went, shit, okay. Now, I do have to get to the thing that I mentioned the JSA earlier. So we get to Aldous Hodge, who plays Hawkman. You, of course, know Aldous Hodge most likely from Leverage. If you haven't seen it, you definitely should. Straight Outta Compton. He was Jim Brown in One Night in Miami, which if you have listened to the podcast, that review's up now, but holy hell, he's amazing in that. And Hidden Figures as well. He's an incredible actor. And this kind of gets into one of a couple complaints I do have about this movie, because Hawkman, I think, is a really cool character. If you've watched Justice League Unlimited, if you've read some JSA, if you've read some Justice League, Hawkman's a cool character. And he just gets punked out by Black Adam over and over and over again, to a point where it almost feels like a parody. And he is really one note whenever he's around Black Adam, where he's basically going, heroes, there's only two people. There's heroes and villains, which, is complete bullshit, because there's, civilians and there's levels to the shit. But that's kind of what he just keeps, Hawkman, parroting, if you will. He just keeps saying that shit over and over. And there's just a point where you go, Black Adam's clearly not listening to you. He's clearly not going to change. Why do you keep going? Why do you keep going back to this well when the wells run dry? God damn it. So that's really quite frustrating for me, as far as just watching an actor of his caliber have to say this shit. But where he does get to shine is in some of the action beats, even though, again, he is getting his ass kicked. The Hawkman suit looks fantastic. It looks great on the big screen. The gold accents, it's the way the costume looks is badass. And I was really happy to see it realized in live action to the degree that it was. The interactions with him and Dwayne Johnson, him and Black Adam are just very clunky and very one note. Where the movie does just shine its brightest for me, I kind of mentioned this on Twitter, on my social media. Dr. Fate, played by Pierce Brosnan, who of course you know from Thomas Crown Affair, Mamma Mia, The November Man, which people sleep on that movie. That movie is actually quite a bit of fun. Survivor. I know I'm missing other things, but he's been in a lot of stuff. Even Remember Me, which is not a good movie, but he's great in that movie. Pierce Brosnan is very similar to how I felt about Anthony Hopkins in Thor, or Robert Redford in Captain America: Winter Soldier. Just these actors or actresses who've been in the game for a while, who have this cachet, who have this level of gravitas where they could easily come in and go, this is a Kate film. I'm going to sleepwalk through this. But Brosnan is bringing it in this movie. And he honestly is the best actor and best performance in this movie. And I don't think it's really particularly close. Brosnan, when his Dr. Fate enters the screen, he has this natural charisma that Brosnan obviously has, but the way he's speaking about his powers and speaking about the future and speaking about Black Adam, realizing that, yeah, Black Adam does kind of suck, but that they might need him down the road. His mind is open enough to the concept of Black Adam that he's not just shitting all over this guy like Hawkman is. And there's a great ongoing joke between Black Adam and Dr. Fate about sarcasm, which is by far the best humor in the movie, because I will say the humor for this movie really doesn't work for me. I think it falls really flat, and a large portion of that is because of Badi Sabangi is what I'm gonna go with, who plays Iman Tumiz, who is Adriana's kid. Look, I understand that not every kid is going to be a great actor right out the gate, or actress or what have you out the gate. I get that. And he hasn't been in a ton of stuff. He was in the Babysitter's Club, which I really actually enjoyed, the Babysitter's Club, but he's really bad. He's really bad. They're trying to do the Shazam thing where he's supposed to be the one kind of telling Black Adam, but how the new world, how the world, the modern world works, and how, he needs to have a catchphrase and all and things like that. But they're trying to do the Jack Dylan Grazer thing that they did with Freddy in Shazam. They're trying to do that here, and totally it just does not work. He keeps telling them, oh, you need to have a catchphrase, you need to do this, you need to say something cool before you kill the villains, and it's very clunky, and it feels like the movie stops pretty much every time to do that shit, and it's frustrating, because I think if you just honestly, you kind of need to have the kid in here for where his mom's arc and his arc goes, and if you're not a comic book reader, I just won't spoil it, but it's very clunky with him in Black Adam, and I really wanted that kid to die. I was hoping he died. He doesn't, by the way. But I don't know. Like, there are things about this movie that I really did enjoy. I think the JSA stuff, for the most part, does work. I haven't gotten to him yet, so I might as well bring him up now. Noah Centineo is what I'm going to go with. Plays Atom Smasher, and Quintessa Swindell plays Cyclone. They straight up might as well have not even been in this fucking movie. There's no reason for them to be in this. They're basically as filler, and they get a couple quips. I did love the cameo of who the original Atom Smasher is. I won't spoil who it is, but there is actually a reason for the retro looking suit. And the suit looks good, I think, but it's just so much of this stuff does ring hollow for me because it's not well developed enough. I rarely say this, but this movie kind of needed to be as long as Eternals. This kind of need to be probably 2.5 hours in order to, I think, adequately flesh out several of these things that I think are just kind of left by the wayside, especially Atom Smasher and Cyclone. Because if you're fans of either of them, this is basically Jubilee in X-Men Apocalypse, where she's there, but she's not really there. And that sucks for two characters who are in the fucking JSA to be this underdeveloped. Outside of that, there are the trailer has spoiled it, so I'll talk about it here. We do get Viola Davis back as Amanda Waller, but this is where I just kind of groan and go, DC, what are we doing here? Because if you remember at the end of Peacemaker, what happens with Amanda Waller, it really makes no sense whatsoever that she has any power left unless they go ahead and retcon that, which admittedly they easily fucking could. But to have her be reaching out to the JSA and going, you need to be the ones to take down Black Adam, it really doesn't make any sense that she's the one to reach out. So I was actually pretty peeved by that. And again, it just really makes no sense. There is a point where Adriana does bring up the fact, when the JSA does show up, she brings up the fact that, oh, you guys are here now because Black Adam is a person of interest to you. Where were you when we were being enslaved and having this dictatorship, brought down upon us for decades? And it's a really cool moment because you go, all right, I'm happy you actually addressed that. But then Black Adam is destroying buildings like left and right, and just the amount of superhero damage that's done because of him alone, you go, all right, you have a point, but at the same time, you did let this fucker out, and he's causing just as much damage, if not more damage, than all 4 members of the fucking JSA are doing. That's weird, and it just rings a little hollow. Also, the whole conceit of this movie, the whole big crux of, what makes a hero, what makes a villain, the movie just kind of drops that halfway through because it's very funny to have Hawkman go, heroes don't kill people, when you think back to Man of Steel and Superman snaps Zod's neck, and, Wonder Woman is, stabbing people through the chest and throwing people, this is the wrong universe to be bringing that shit up in. There's a reason why Marvel, the only person who really has any qualms about killing is Spider-Man. And they make that very crystal fucking clear. It's really frustrating how the movie kind of brings that up and then just drops it. So I don't know. There's just things in between some of the stuff that I really did enjoy that I just went, this is clunky. There is one joke I will say that did legit make me go, haha, okay, movie, that was funny. Because Black Adam is trying to learn, maybe don't kill so much. There's a point where where Amon gets kidnapped, and Dr. Fate, goes, bring this military guy back to our back to the base. I'll go ahead and I'll break his mind. Black Adam gets really quiet, and Dr. Fate just goes, well, wait, did you kill him? And Black Adam pauses for a second, goes, yeah, he didn't make it. And, that's a funny joke, but then you're literally making fun of your premise as far as the whole, Black Adam can't stop killing Waka Waka. So the movie, it kept having these points where I went, this is really cool in bits and pieces. And then there are these other parts where I went, this is really maddening and pretty dumb. The more I think about the movie, the less I like it. But at the same time, the JSA stuff does kick ass. And so getting my final thoughts, and actually, okay, Dwayne Johnson spoiled it, so I'll spoil it. The end credit scene, okay, it makes no sense. It makes no sense that this person is back, given how they're brought back, and I'll just leave it at that. But it is cool that this person is back, but they have to execute. They have to actually follow up on this. I don't want to hear about, we're going to do a sequel to that movie, and, 8 years from now, we still don't have it. I actually need DC to come out, preferably next Comic-Con, and actually have a goddamn roadmap and have a fucking plan. Because canceling Fandom, which was supposed to happen this month, I've talked about that. It's still one of the dumber fucking decisions that David Zaslav has made, and that's really saying something coming from him. You need to give your fans a reason to be excited. Does this change the DC hierarchy? I mean, fuck, what hierarchy is left to change at this point? But this is in no way, as torturous as the trailers made it look. Because I could not have given a fuck about this movie from watching the trailers. But I do think that there's enough here that if you're a fan of the JSA, if you're a fan of Black Adam, this would make you probably want to read some Black Adam, because you'd be curious about the gaps that this movie definitely leaves out, and there's definitely quite a few. This isn't the best movie in the world, but this isn't the worst movie in the world. It just kind of falls in the middle, which has kind of been my issue with DC overall, with the fact that it's just so much untapped potential. I keep saying Matt Reeves or James Gunn should just write all DC shit, and I was kind of saying it in jest at points, but I kind of stand by that. Let let James Gunn handle this shit, because he's the one who clearly understands these characters. But I'm gonna give this, I'm gonna give this a B-. I think if you see this at an early matinee or $5 movie Tuesday, like Cinemark has, I think you'll go. At worst, it was a fun popcorn flick at parts, but they need new screenwriters for this shit. Give me different screenwriters, because I just wasn't crazy about how this was handled. The writers in question are Adam Sitzkiel, Rory Haynes, and then I'm gonna butcher this one as well. Sorry, Sarab Nashravani is what I'm gonna go with. Adam was a writer on Due Date. Holy shit. Oh my god, he did Due Date. Fuck. He wrote Due Date and Rampage, which, not great. But he wrote Scoob, and I really enjoyed Scoob. Rory Haynes was a writer on not a lot of stuff, actually, so they're pretty much brand new. So, yeah, and same thing for Sharab. So, not a ton of writing pedigree behind this film, and yeah, they need to get other writers for the inevitable, probably, sequel that we'll get. But yeah, B-. I think that's fair for this. But Black Adam, everyone, what'd you think of it? Let us know in the comments. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter at JHunterRealPineapple. You can follow like both of our pages on Facebook at The Real Pineapple and Real Pineapple Games. That's REEL Pineapple. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can find us on SoundCloud, Apple, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon Music, and TuneUp, and Samsung Podcasts at The Real Pineapple. Don't forget to follow me on Letterboxd at Black Shazam, and you can follow me on TikTok at Black Shazam 775. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. We'll have reviews up Next week for the Real Spooky series, we've got quite a bit that's dropped next week, including reviews for X, The Black Phone, Scream, and Scream 2, and Scream 3. So we've got quite a few horror movies coming out next week. I don't think there's really new releases next week that I'm interested in, so there'll probably be, I'll have something else up as outside of the Real Spooky stuff. But everyone, thank you so much for listening. Stay safe out there. Go get your flu shot. It's starting to get cold out there. Tell someone you love them today. We all need to hear that more. But thanks again for your support, and we'll talk to you soon.